The food, come here, Mojo. Come here, Bobo. Come.
Oh, काय गोड आहे यार.
You are the senior vice president, no? Finely chopped. And your brother is the junior vice president. He's my podcast producer, except he is always asleep. So now you'll act out the person, right?
Now, why are you after me acting?
Was it fun?
Kalyan?
Oh.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
What's up?
Good, yeah. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes.
So this is something.
Oh.
Okay, it's always tough. Okay.
Uh.
I didn't know what to bring.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, because you review so much food. So I
Yeah,
thought
no,
this is
is
something
like-
you like because I know you like
No,
bread.
we do, and we love baker's dozen stuff.
Perfect.
And as they say in the movie, iska kya zarurat?
Welcome to Creative Talkative with Ketki Tewary.
Yeah, we're creative and talkative. There's no stopping this. There's no topping this. Time to explain what's in our veins, what's in our minds. Take a peek into these lives. Yeah, we're creative and talkative. There's no stopping this. There's no topping this. Time to
Join
explain
in
what's
for a
in our veins,
delicious and wonderful conversation with the country's leading food and travel writer, Kalyan Karmakar, as he talks about being a cat dad and his flavorful take on life. So this is your second book,
Yes.
which you're writing after 10 years almost.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So the first one, which is The Traveling Belly, you
That
traveled.
came out in 2014, so yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Almost
so
10 years.
You
yeah.
traveled across India for that
Yeah.
book.
No, not really. So like I said, my writing's always like a diary. So I had traveled a fair bit across India because of my work as a market researcher. So do for focus groups and stuff. So which is why there's a lot more of Bombay in it, because I've this thing, and followed by Calcutta. So Bombay and Calcutta are from the perspective of someone who lives there,
Yeah.
and the others are from perspective of someone who goes there for 3-4 days. So obviously it won't have the perspective of a local.
Okay, so let's speak about the various things that you do, because I think the way you have covered
Yeah.
food, I'm not going to commercialize it and say food industry, but the way I think you've covered food, you have left no pancake unturned is what I would like to say.
Yes.
So basically, let's begin with your first creative baby, which is the Finely Chopped,
Yes.
which began as a passion project.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And it is India's, I think, one of the finest travel and
Thank
food blogs, right?
Thank you.
So when you started writing, okay, did you actually think that it could become something where you would go on writing for the longest period? Because typically what happens
Yeah.
with bloggers, it's especially when people start blogging, is that they started with a lot of enthusiasm, but then over a period of time, it kind of. But now you do so many other things,
Yeah.
but you still find the time.
Oh, absolutely. That's still my. So it's 15 years old. So in October, Kana's named it Finely Chopped because the idea was for me to go out and say that this is what real food is, and this is what the problem with this thing, and that's how it started. It was
Right.
a angry young blog, but very soon I realized that I really loved it because it had become a diary of my life. Of course, a public diary.
But I think in a way, at least this is what I think, that it brings all your loves together, because
absolutely,
you
yeah.
were in research,
Yeah,
and you love to write.
But I think that's the same for you, right? Because
Yeah.
you've been in advertising and the art side, and then you became a radio jockey, and
Yeah.
now you're doing a podcast.
The next thing that I want to talk about is you being a columnist for, say, Times, Indian Express, NDTV, BBC Good Food. I mean, I don't think there's anyone you've left
Yeah.
out. So that happened because they saw your blog and they thought that, okay, here is someone who can do it for us, or was it something that just kind of happened because you clearly took that direction, that okay,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do now. Blog is one thing, now let me see what all I can explore in food. So how did that happen?
Yeah, so I must say that whenever I have thought of something and approached someone, it's never worked out. But most of the things which I've done is because people reached out to me. So the first column I used to do was for Femina when I was working in research, and they approached me. So it was food and travel. Then was NDTV Good Food, and they wanted me to do a thing on culture and food. And I said, that's not my area because I'm more a columnist. But they had the faith in me, so that started. Then Indian Express reached out and they wanted me to do op-ed columns, which is very different. And then Times of India, and by then I was fully into food writing as a profession. So we collectively created this concept called the Times Kitchen Tales.
Okay.
And as a part of that, there was a weekly column when the season was on. And then once a month, I'd curate and conduct an event for them in different cities.
Your YouTube channel has so many different things. It's not just your show. It has
Yeah.
another vertical called Every Bite Matters,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
are small sort of
Yeah.
videos, which is interesting. Then you also have something called Eat Better,
Yes.
which I think is dedicated to people who want to lead
Yes.
like a healthier sort of or there is also Foodocracy. Now I would
Yeah.
really want to talk about that. So how did that idea come about? So that is again an award-winning
Yeah.
podcast, and you highlight sort of women
Yes.
and their journeys in food.
General assumption is that when it comes to cooking at home, it's women. When it comes to the industry, it's men. So I started doing these lives on that area, which is chatting with women in food. And then it became very easy because I could be sitting here and talking with someone in Jamshedpur, Nainital and whatnot. So yesterday I recorded someone who's from Darbhanga doing makhanas.
Okay.
So I was perspiring over here, and there the internet signal kept breaking because it was too cold.
Cold.
Yeah, but it's just been fascinating. And the thing, Ketki, is that when I speak to them, while they tend to be, I mean, they are women, but actually it's their work as a professional, and it's so inspiring.
You've been a jury on
Yeah.
almost every big food awards.
Yeah.
And now you have your own, which is
Yeah,
Home Chefies.
Yeah. One thing which I felt was that since everyone was working by themselves and they were doing great food, they didn't always market themselves. And in a way, like what we used to do in the agency and stuff is that we used to help brands market themselves,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's what advertising is, market research also to an extent. So then I said that let's have an award for home chefs. Then the next question was, how do you do it? Because restaurant awards, you're eating at the restaurant and basis
Yeah,
that you're
correct.
saying it. So first of all, home chefs are spread across the country.
Yeah.
And now you can't meet. And you can't without eating really say who's the best home chef. That's
Of
not
course.
fair. But what you can do is you can award them on the basis of the brands which they're creating.
So do you actually get stopped by people and someone asking you something absolutely crazy,
Yeah.
like आपने यहाँ पे खाया है, क्या order करना है, या यहाँ का कौन सा dish बिल्कुल नहीं order करना है, something like that. I'm sure that must be happening.
I do often get queries like that on social media, but if I'm in an area where there are food people, like during the Upper Crust Fest and so on, there were people who would come up and say that they follow my stuff and things which they like. Very occasionally it's happened, but again, if I'm in a cafe or something where someone might come up, but nothing at a such a level. Yeah, and I must tell you that now when I meet people, they say that we follow you and we are big fans of your cats. So I'm not like
like that.
I feel like
A proud cat dad.
yeah,
You partner with a lot of
Yeah.
corporates and companies. So you have ITC, of course, Marico and Sodexo and all.
Yeah.
So what is the kind of work you do for them?
So I've consulted brands on different ways. So for example, with Marico, it was a 6-month panel where I would sit with their products and give feedback. With ITC, it was some films which we did around the prawns, MasterChef prawns. Even the Times of India was a consulting thing plus column, because I sort of curating the Times Kitchen Tales property, the theme for the season, theme for the month, getting the thing was that. And very recently I did some work with the Tatas, so where they were having a workshop in Bangalore in one of the food spaces, and I made a presentation on how the youth segment is behaving in that particular space, and from here online.
It's so tempting for me to tell you. I mean, I would really like to spend like 1 week with you, because the kind of work you're doing, it's really exciting. Secondly, you're doing different things every day.
Yeah.
So if I were to actually slice your entire week,
Yeah.
so it's basically one day you're writing, one day you're going out and actually exploring. The third day you're doing something for branding, like you said. Okay, so I can't imagine living that. I mean, of course, I'm not complaining. I
Yeah.
live a very exciting
Yeah,
life
and
myself.
as a teacher and a podcaster
Yeah, but it would be really exciting.
and a mom.
Earliest memories, childhood memories of food. We all have amazing memories of our mums and going into the kitchen, and luckily we were born at a time when we used to actually go and sit and eat in the kitchen. I
Yes,
still remember,
yes.
something which has become very rare now.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
So we lived in England and in Iran for years. So then we moved to India, and for me, India was everything was new. The language, the food, mustard oil. So I would just refuse to eat that. So my mom would cook separately for me, like fried rice or spaghetti or Spanish omelets and stuff. My dad, mom, and I, we'd gone down for breakfast, and I must have been maybe 2 or 3 years old. And there was black pudding, which is a sort of blood sausage, for breakfast. And I just heard black pudding, and I said, I don't want to eat it. So then the waitress said, but how will you know if you don't try it? So then I tried it, and I really liked it. So I think that lesson stayed with me, that, I mean, at least try it before you decide that you don't want to have it. So I think that's where the origins of wanting to tell stories about my adopted city, which is my city now, through the blog and through the walks. I think the seeds of that was sown.
I read
there.
something very interesting that you write on your Twitter, which is when you were little, you were told stories to make you eat.
All of us are.
Yeah, of course. And now you look for stories when you eat.
Exactly, and that's been my bio right from the
That's
beginning.
so beautiful. I just love that.
Thank
Yeah. I think the most important thing is, you've reached a space where you're so happy, like you said, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like work, and to get to that space, then it doesn't matter what your
Yeah.
Twitter handle
Yeah.
says and, what you're going to put
Yeah.
out there and your CV and this and that.
But it's not been an easy journey. Like, so when I moved out of research and I wanted to do something in food, but the first year or so I didn't really know what to do. And that's when I started, practicing Buddhism in earnest. And I think with that, I learned to look for purpose, and of course the medicines were working parallelly. And I think that slowly then I sort of was awakened to my identity as a food writer.
There's this misconception that people who review food don't actually eat
Yeah.
the food. They just have one bite. So ये होता है, मतलब you actually eat
No,
it or
yeah. So no, it is true. There are people. See, and also the seasoned people can get a little bite and get an idea of the food. So yeah, I mean, they don't definitely eat all the food out there.
your memory of the best meal that you had with Kenas maybe someplace.
Bit difficult to say which is our favorite, because that keeps sort of changing. And I've been thinking about this for quite some time, and once I have the answer, I'll tell you.
So any particular city that you haven't covered and you dream of covering through food?
I think it will be New York, because both of us want to go there, and the person whom I looked up to and came into writing, Anthony Bourdain, the late Bourdain. So
Yeah.
New York was his home
Yeah.
thing. So I think New York is where we would like to go and also experiment with the food.
So if, say for example, you were stuck on an island, or you know that you're going to go on an island, and you could
Or
carry...
stuck in Sakinaka because of
Correct.
traffic.
With all
or-
the traffic, yes, that's also great.
Yeah.
And you could carry only 3 ingredients with you
Ah.
to cook
Yeah.
or fix yourself a meal. What would those 3 ingredients be?
So this is excluding salt and all that.
No.
So salt,
Yeah.
I think oil, and maybe some cheese.
Is it?
Yeah, because the meat I can hunt out over there.
Because,
And cat food, right? Because I'll be with my cats.
so if I were to tell you that, as someone who's been in food for so long,
Yeah.
if it was your responsibility to kind of highlight one particular cuisine or maybe a couple of dishes, as Indian dishes globally to the world, what would those be?
Bengali khichdi, because the khichdi is often seen as the sick man's food, but the khichdi in the rains of Durga Puja is something which you really look forward to, and it's a complete meal. If I look at it as a meal, the khichdi with the begun bhaja, the fried aubergine,
Yeah.
and the labra, which is like a mixed vegetable sort of thing.
Your take on modern day cuisine, or what we call fusion food, or even food as an art form. So it's great to look at, and I think all this, this deconstructed
Yeah.
food, and when you go to a place, it's of course the experience. But then sometimes, at least as someone who's been there and had that experience, when you're really hungry and you go to this fancy place, and they put like food which is like 2 bites of food in front of you with 3 drops of chutney, and you're like, my God, what is this? I want real food.
Not chutney, emulsion. There's certain fusion which happens within the society. So like maybe someone discovers a combination which makes sense and all, and then which becomes a part of the society.
Correct.
So that's fine. There are chefs who know their flavors and they make combinations which people will like.
Yeah.
That's also fine within that context. But there are people who, for the sake, because that's trending, they will do that, and which makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
That's not going to really stay or work with the audience.
I always believe that nothing unites us and divides us as much as food does.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you handle, when people are fiercely loyal, to their region and their local food, so where someone from Nagpur will say, "Our poha is the best," someone from Pune will say, "Our poha is," and people have this, they guard it like this, and almost to a point where they're putting down other food.
Yes.
That, hey, khalle ka, like ours is the best, our tari is the best, our this. So, how have you, have you ever faced something like this, and how have you handled it?
I think that it really comes down to the sort of attitude with which you look at something. So for me, it's always been, it's a combination of two things. One is like confidence in what you are doing. So which is why I said that, one shouldn't look westwards and stuff. But the other side thing is that I look at people with a lot of respect. So when I go to a place, I try to connect with them through their food, because if you ask someone that what do they eat, where do they shop for food, they'll be happy to tell you.
What about trolling?
If I see that it's not really a trolling question, the person genuinely has a question, then I try to answer it. Sometimes, if it's really stupid and I want to have some
You just
fun.
ignore
No,
it.
sometimes I want to have some fun.
Achha,
I'll just
like that, you engage.
And otherwise I just like ignore.
So enough of serious conversation. We'll get into something fun.
I don't do fun.
You do, and you have a lovely smile. So we hope you'll laugh a little more. Yeah. So we have a game for you, and there are 2 parts to the game.
I won't have to run or something, no?
No.
No Surya Namaskars.
No.
Okay, dinner.
So we've called it food for thought. So it's all sitting down, aram se, casual.
See, thought is good. Thought I can think.
Yeah. The first part of the game is I'm going to give you a few emotions.
Okay.
Okay. And you are going to give me the first spice name that comes to your mind, because we all know that food and emotion go hand in hand.
But you'll act it out, right, Joya?
No. I won't. Okay.
That
So
sounds
here
good.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first one is anger.
Red chili powder.
Red chili powder.
Yeah, very tikha. So
Not
not
the
Kashmiri, not
not
Kashmiri.
Kashmiri, the
The
tikha.
Bedki Karnataka.
The Bedki
yeah.
one. Yeah. Happiness.
Happiness would be chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah, and it's an ingredient, cocoa.
And normal chocolate, not that 80% cocoa and
fruit and nut milk chocolate.
Okay, envy.
Truffle, and not truffle oil, but actually shaved truffle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Lust.
Hot chocolate.
Fear.
Fear would be like something very pungent, like say maybe fish sauce, because you need to get the balance right. I mean, I like fish sauce, but you need to get the balance right.
Sadness.
Vegetables.
Anxiety.
I would say that any tarka, like whether it's pachforon or mustard seeds or this thing, because if it burns, so you've got a very small window of opportunity when you're doing the tarka or the foron.
Love.
Chocolate. Okay, strawberries.
Hatred.
Something really bitter.
Methi seeds.
Karela.
Karela. And pride.
So pride. Pride, I would say soy sauce.
Great. Now the second part is even more interesting, because we are relating food with people.
Okay.
Okay, so we all know that.
So now you'll act out the person, right?
Why are you after me acting
No,
out?
but I have to be fun and
I'm going to paint a picture of a person, and you're going to relate it to the dish
Okay, I'm fine, but if Kainaz comes out and comes back and see the walls are painted.
Since you mentioned Kenaz, I know she's extremely adorable and sweet. And she's not the nagging wife. But what food item or what food dish would you relate with a nagging wife?
Oh, nagging wife. Yeah, nagging wife. So I think the millet rotis, simply because I like eating them, but it's really my dietitian who nags me to eat them.
A neighbor who's always complaining.
It will be something which is very sort of hot and scalding. So imagine a vada pav, which is nice, like a neighbor should be, but it's you've taken it fresh from this thing and you put it in your mouth and it just burns.
The 3 a.m. friend.
3 a.m. friend, I mean, if I take it literally, would be Maggi, cheese and ketchup.
The over-optimistic uncle, who's always telling you, "Sab theek ho jayega, beta."
That's whiskey.
Whiskey. Then this one friend who is always getting you into trouble, giving you the wrong advice.
Bacon.
Bacon. Forever curious, very nosy auntie who's like wanting to know everything that's going on in your life.
So I'd say that's processed cheese, because in Mumbai it goes into every street food. So like an Amul cheese is in everything.
But now I'm actually really hungry. So where do you want to go?
Candies?
Good idea. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's a favorite.
Let us tell you what we wanna say. Not about just getting paid or achieving fame. It's about the everyday blood, sweat and tears, dreams and fears, everything you gotta hear. Listen, from the first steps to the final leap, making headlines in history. How they did it, it's no mystery. Take a seat, honestly. Yeah, we're creative and talkative. There's no stopping this, there's no topping this. Time for honesty with some novelty. Sit down with KT, you just hit the lottery.
Hope you had as much fun listening as we did talking. Do subscribe for updates on our upcoming episode out every Friday. Like, share and follow us on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, as well as creativetalkative.com. That's creative with a K.